Okay, good morning, Aubrey. I'm recording this for you, Audrey, not Aubrey, sorry. Good morning, Audrey. We're recording the lecture on Beowulf. It's in your Schoology. It's under Beowulf, obviously, and today's date, which is October 2nd. And we're going to go through the story of Beowulf. And Beowulf, as you learned in your information, in the introductory information, Beowulf was around 500 AD, and it was written down by, they think, monks, and it was written down kind of as to proselytize or to spread Christianity. So remember, you're at the point where you have William the Conqueror, and he has come in, and he's the Anglo-Saxon guy, and he has come in and he has brought Christianity with him. And so the Romans kind of left it there, and then it grew as people began to embrace it more and more. Okay, we're going to read it together, but before we do that, we need to go over and reiterate some of the things that you find in epic poetry. So what are some of the characteristics of epic poems? Lengthy speeches. Oh yeah, lengthy speeches. What else? A hero. Okay, there's a hero that's on a quest, right? Okay, what else?
Yeah, the supernatural elements.
Right, supernatural elements in there. Gods or gods and goddesses. Okay, what else?
Homeric similes.
Okay, Homeric similes. All right.
Does that mean they have to have hubris, or is that just a side thing?
Usually there's some hubris in there. I'm sorry, my hands are probably not sanitized.
Oh,
Well, you should, because you should.
I trust that you're not sick, because if you're smart enough to do this constantly, you're not sick. Then again, I don't want to get Miss Wanter sick.
I know Timmy.
I would feel miserable if I had to.
Oh my goodness, Yolanda, this long.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know how this goes. Did you want one? Okay, I'm not sure. I think everything's in there, but it may not be in order, but if you can't find it, let me know. All right. Okay, so before we get started, we're going to do a little bit of genealogy with Beowulf, where he came from or where the story came from, if I can remember it.
Should we staple these together?
Yeah, you can staple them if you want to.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to pause Audrey so she doesn't have to sit and listen to me. All right, for the genealogy of Beowulf, it's not so much him. I have that on tape because I'm taping.
Okay.
That's not so good. Okay. All right. Well, you should. You should care. Oh my gosh. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about where Beowulf came from. You have the king of the Danes, who is Hrothgar. Hrothgar has built this mead hall. I'll just give you kind of a summary of the tale. Hrothgar built this mead hall that all of his warriors would go in to celebrate whenever they would be successful in battle or anything like that would happen. Okay, so when that happened, he was a very popular king. He was very well known, and people liked him very much because he provided for them. He was a good king. There was a lot of treasure and things to go around. Then Grindel shows up. Grindel was not very happy, and he went in and he ate like lots and lots of Hrothgar's men every night. Hrothgar tried fighting him. They couldn't fight him. They couldn't defeat him, and so they abandoned the mead hall and enter Beowulf. Beowulf is a Yeat, sorry. A Yeat, G-E-A-T, is from Sweden. And he heard about the plight of the Danes. So he decided to go across the ocean to Sweden to defeat Grendel. Okay, so what's the connection? The Swedish king is married to Hrothgar's sister. So there's a connection between the courts. Okay, Beowulf is like a cousin. He's not a son of the king, but he's related to royalty. Everybody clear so far, so good? Okay, so let's take a look, and as we're going through this, go ahead and look for examples of the things that you see in an epic poem. A powerful monster living down in the darkness growled in pain. Impatient as day after day, the music rang loud in that hall. The harp's rejoicing call, and the poet's clear songs sung of the ancient beginnings of us all. Okay, so this sets up the idea of Grindel. He's not happy. Why isn't he happy?
The loud music.
The loud music sounds like your mom, right? Would you turn that down? Okay, so he's not really happy. And also, this is also making him very unhappy. Sung of the ancient beginnings of us all, recalling the Almighty making the earth, shaping these beautiful plains marked off by oceans, then proudly setting the sun and moon to glow across the land and light it. The corners of the earth were made lovely with trees and leaves, made quick with life, with each of the nations who now move on its face. All right, what do we call this? Where you have, and I'm going to have to erase this stuff as I go because this board doesn't work right. Okay, so you have all of this information here, and what is that about? No, what is it describing? What does this sound like if you stop and think? What? It's about how, what?
It's creation.
It's the creation story, right? So remember how I said this myth was used to bring people to God or to show Christianity? So you have the creation story that is being used by the monks to kind of slip in these principles of Christianity. But what do we call this when you have, what is this called in an epic poem where you get off topic and you start talking about something else? Starts with an R. Regressions. Remember regressions? So there's a regression right away to talk about the creation story to help introduce the ideas of Christianity to the people who are listening to the bard. So Hrothgar's men lived happily in his hall till the monster stirred, that demon, that fiend, Grindel, who haunted the moors, the wild marshes, and made his home in a hell. Not hell, but earth. He was spawned in that slime, conceived by a pair of those monsters born of Cain, murderous creatures banished by God and punished forever for the crime of Abel's death. So again, what do you have here?
Story of Cain and Abel.
The story of Cain and Abel. All right, so the story of the Cain and Abel, it goes down farther than that, it goes down here.
To drove or to crowd?
Well, actually, it keeps going. If we're going to be honest, I'm going to erase this and I'm going to move this up so I can do this. You have right here that he was spawned in that slime. And you have it going down here to here. So you have conceived by a pair of those monsters born of Cain, murderous creatures banished by God, punished forever for the crime of Abel's death. The Almighty drove those demons out, and their exile was bitter. Shut away from men, they split into 1,000 forms of evil, spirits and fiends, goblins, monsters, giants, a brood forever opposing the Lord's will, and again defeated. So you have this whole idea of the story of Cain and Abel, which is also biblical. And again, this idea of bringing the ideas of Christianity to the people who are listening, right? And is another regression. It also serves a purpose, though. What is the purpose? What do we know about Grindel?
He's a descendant of Cain.
Okay. So you know he's a descendant, did I spell that right? Of Cain. And you know the story of Cain and Abel where they were giving their sacrifices to God And Abel followed God's instructions on what it should be. And Cain thought, no, I'm just going to do it this way. And God says, I don't like your gift. And so he rejected Cain's gift. And so as a result, Cain was jealous of Abel and he killed him, the first murderer, right? Okay. All right. Are we good so far?
Who's mad?
Grindel. This guy. Because of the loud music, because he's a demon, he's a fiend, he's descended from Cain, the first murderer. Then, when darkness had dropped, Grindel went up to Heorot. What is Heorot?
That's in the kingdom.
No, I said that in the beginning, in the introduction. What is Heorot? Heorot is the name of the mead hall, right? The celebration hall. Like at Lloyd, you have the community center. So this is like the community center. Wondering what the warriors would do in that hall when their drinking was done. He found them sprawled in sleep, suspecting nothing, their dreams undisturbed. The monster's thoughts were as quick as his greed or his claws. So what do you have here when you're talking about literary elements? What do you have? Comparing his thoughts to what? To claws. So it's dream as quick as, this is going to be a simile, right? For comparison's sake. He slipped through the door and there in the silence snatched up 30 men, smashed them unknowing in their beds and ran out with their bodies, the blood dripping behind him back to his lair, delighted with his night's slaughter. Look at how they use the literary elements here. Slipped, silence, snatched, smashed.
What's that called?
Yeah, not assonance.
It's consonants, but it's a more specific one.
It's alliteration.
Yeah.
And you'll notice as you go through this poem, one of the reasons it seems so poetic is because of the language that is used with the alliteration, the assonance, the similes, those kinds of things. At daybreak, with the sun's first light, they saw how well he had worked, and in that gray morning broke their long feast with tears and laments for the dead. Hrothgar, okay, here's his name. He's the king of the Danes. Hrothgar, their lord, sat joyless in Heorot, the mead hall. Mighty prince in mourning the fate of his lost friends and companions, knowing by its track that some demon had torn his followers apart. He wept, fearing the beginning might not be the end. And that night, Grindel came again, so set on murder that no crime could ever be enough. No savage assault quench his lust for evil. So, you know, it's just like a cougar that finds that calves are easy to catch. It'll catch one, and then when it gets hungry, it'll go back and catch another. Now it's becoming a nightly affair, okay? Then each warrior tried to escape him, search for rest in a different bed, as far from Heorot as they could find. Seeing how Grindel hunted when they slept, distance was safety, and the only survivors were those who fled him. Hate had triumphed. What does that mean? Hate had triumphed. Okay, so what is hate? What is hate a metaphor for? Come on, you can do this. Grindel.
It is Grindel.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes me feel good.
Grindel was winning. And so Grindel ruled, fought with the righteous, won against many, and won. So Heorot stood empty and stayed deserted for years. How many years? 12 years it was empty. King of the Danes, sorrow heaped at his door by hell-forged hands. His misery leaped the seas. What does that mean?
Other nations knew.
Yeah, other nations heard about the problems. Was told and sung in all men's ears how Grendel's hatred began, how the monster relished his savage roar in the Danes, keeping the bloody feud alive and seeking no peace, offering no truce, accepting no settlement, no price in gold or land, and paying the living for one crime only with another. No one waited for reparation for his plundering claws. That shadow of death hunted in the darkness, stalked Hrothgar's warriors, old and young, invisibly following them from the edge of the marsh, always there, unseen. So mankind's enemy continued his crimes, killing as often as he could, coming alone, bloodthirsty and horrible. Though he lived in Heorot when the night hit him, he never dared touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne. Why? Whoa. It's protected by God. Okay, again, you have your proselytization. The God whose love Grendel could not know. But Hrothgar's heart was bent. The best and noble of his council debated remedy, sat in secret sessions, talking of terror and wondering what the bravest of warriors could do. And sometimes they sacrificed to the old stone gods, made heathen vows, hoping for hell's support, the devil's guidance in driving their affliction off. That was their way. And the heathens' only hope, hell, was in their hearts, knowing neither God nor his passing. Okay, whoa, stop here. Let's go back here. What did they do? Whom did they turn to in their troubles?
Devil.
The old stone gods. Now, that's showing you what? What are we talking about here? What were the Anglo-Saxons? What was their religion?
Old stone gods.
The Druids, right? Okay, so you have Christianity, but you also have this underpinning of the old gods that are still around. And they're hoping for hell's support against hell. Okay, it doesn't make sense, right? They're asking for hell's help to defeat hell, is basically what the author is trying to say. That was their way, and their only hope, hell was in their hearts. Now here you're coming back to the light by him saying, knowing neither God nor his passing as he walks through our world. The Lord of heaven and earth, the ears could not hear his praise or know of his glory. Let them beware those who are thrust into danger, clutched at by trouble, yet can carry no solace in their hearts, cannot hope to be better. Hail to those who arise to God, drop off their dead bodies and seek our Father's peace. Whoa, talk about a regression, right? And all of a sudden we're into a sermon, right? Because remember, the monks are the ones that are translating this, and they're using this as a way to bring their followers into Christianity. So you have, oh Lord, I want my smartboard. You have this regression, and also you have this idea that hell will drive out hell.
I'm gonna make sure I'm doing this right, so I don't mess it up, because this is.
It's lines 90 to 95 are basically what it says is hell will drive out hell. And then from 96 to the end of the first or the second section, it talks about there's a regression of again with the message of Christianity. Okay, what time is this hour over?
7 minutes.
How much?
We have 6 minutes.
6 minutes left? Okay. All right. Now, Healthine is Hrothgar's dad. He had 3 sons. He had Hrothgar and his 2 brothers. One was older, one was younger. The oldest one was killed, so Hrothgar became the king in place of the first one. And then they had the sister Yrs, Y-R-S, and good Scandinavian names. And she was the one that was married to the king of the Yates. So the living sorrow of Healthdane's son simmered, bitter and fresh, and no wisdom or strength could break it. The agony hung on king and people alike, harsh and unending, violent and cruel, and evil. So here we are introduced to Beowulf. In his far off home, Beowulf, Higlac's follower. Higlac is the king of the Yates, okay? Higlac's follower and the strongest of the Yates, greater and stronger than anyone, anywhere in the world. So we know that he contains what characteristics of an epic hero? He is definitely stronger than the average person, right? So he's stronger than the average person. Heard how Grindel filled nights with horror and quickly commanded a boat fitted out, proclaiming that he would go to that famous king, would sail across the sea to Hrothgar, now when help was needed. All right, so here is the quest. Because if every epic poem has a quest, then that is the quest that he's going to go on. None of the wise ones regretted his going, much as he was loved by the Yates. The omens were good. Uh-oh, we have paganism peeking in again, right? Because omens are not something that Christians believe in. They believe in the will of God, but they don't believe in omens. Yeah, and they urged the adventure on. So Beowulf chose the mightiest men he could find, the bravest and best of the Yates, 14 in all, and led them down to their boat. So there was Beowulf himself plus 13 others that went on this trip, 14 of them in all, and led them down to their boat. He knew the sea would point the prow straight to that distant Danish shore. So basically it was Beowulf to the rescue.
Wait, so there's 14 counting Beowulf or 15?
14 in all, okay? So it says up here, where was it? 14 in all, so it includes Beowulf, okay? All right, that's a good place to stop with the end of the first epic. Oh, it is a good place because I forgot this one did that on my smartboard. I have another copy of it. Don't ask me why I did that. I have no idea. I don't know. Okay. All right. So no homework this weekend. We'll finish Beowulf on Monday. Then I need to ask you, we have a movie that goes with Beowulf that we're going to watch. Would you rather take the test on the 3 epics and get that over with and watch the movie afterwards? Because it isn't a movie so much about Beowulf as where the legend would have come from for Beowulf. So if you would rather take the test first, so things are relatively fresh in your mind, and then watch the movie, that's fine with me. Or if you'd rather watch the movie first and then take the poetry or the test on the poets, it's up to you. You let me know. Personally speaking, I'd rather take the test first and then watch the movie. That's kind of what I thought. Okay. So if that's true, we'll finish Beowulf on Monday. We will review on Tuesday and probably a test Wednesday. No, that's a virtual day. Probably a test on Thursday. Okay. Does that sound good?
Next
All right.
Friday's another short day, right?
Pardon?
Next Friday's another short day. right?
Yes, it is because it's homecoming.
Yep, that's what I figured.
All righty then. We will do it that way. Bye, Audrey. See you later.